whatnot here.
And if you make a really good point, you'll get one of these beautiful hats. Or I might just throw one to you anyway. But great to be here, everybody. And we're going to do some questions. And this is what free speech is all about. Let's get started. Thanks, guys. Hello, you are the...
What would you prefer me to do?
Okay, fine. How about this? What can I, as a white person, do that you, as a black person, can't do?
I think the question is posed in a manner that does not highlight white privilege. White privilege is not.
That's why I asked. I want to go on your term, not my term. Right.
Right. I'm trying to explain. So white privilege is in the opportunities. So you and I, not you and I as Charlie, because obviously you have an opportunity and you have a platform. But any other regular person, white privilege is not in the opportunities because we have the same opportunities. White privilege is in the outcomes of the opportunities. Me and my white counterpart may have the same opportunity to get the same job. However, whites are hired at triple the rate, and blacks for the same position with equal qualifying credentials.
Is it easier for a white person or a black person to get into college?
I would tell you, for me, going to college is different, just based on from what I came from in my background.
Right, so the standards for a black person are lower than for a white person.
Correct.
That's affirmative action. So wouldn't that be, like, black privilege, not white privilege?
No. Affirmative action was created because...
not why it's created, but answer the question. Isn't it easier for a black individual to get into the University of Florida than a white individual?
Understand the context.
Not the context. We can talk the context. Just answer the question. Is it easier for a black person or a white person with test scores to get into the University of Florida?
I'm not sure. Like I said, that's subjective and arbitrary. What I want to say about affirmative action, it was created because, same thing as it was created because people of color who qualified to go into these universities were denied simply because of their skin tone, which is why they created affirmative action. It's disingenuous.
No, that's why we created the Civil Rights Act, not the affirmative action. So those are three different things, right? Civil Rights Act, affirmative action, DEI, three different things. Civil Rights Act, we agree, no one should be discriminated based on the color of their skin. Affirmative action is something different. Affirmative action is that we're going to lower the standards to get more of a skin color just because we think they're not represented enough. DEI is a further extension of that.
Understood.
So let me kind of ask the question again. So baked into the idea of white privilege is that inherently in our culture as society, somebody that has white skin color in this audience has extra privileges that you as a black individual do not have. Can you list what those are?
Sure. When FDR employed the New Deal to counteract the Great Depression, this came resources that was allowed it to white people. Banks denied 99% of qualified black applicants while also accepting 99% of white applicants.
But today in 2025.
Okay, today in 2025, as I alluded to you, they've done studies in psychology where white-sounding names receive jobs or callbacks more than black-sounding names. They did the two names. It was a white young lady named Anna Scott, and it was a black young lady named Lakeisha Washington. So they both put in 80 job applications. Lakeisha Washington received 9 callbacks and received 75 callbacks.
So that's a good point. I actually, that study is debated, but let's pretend it's true. Do you think it's racism or something else?
I think that answer is multifaceted.
Because it didn't, let me make the best, sorry to interrupt you. If we live under a status of DEI and people are getting jobs that they're not qualified for, wouldn't then an applicant then assume maybe that an applicant might be there based on DEI, not on merit? It actually creates more racism where it doesn't exist.
So DEI is not about going and grabbing some random person of color and saying you therefore qualify. DEI is about considering other qualified applicants.
Well, let's take airline pilots. United Airlines wants 40% all of their airline pilots to be women or people of color. Why does that matter? Number one, because I want a qualified airline pilot, not a person of color airline pilot.
Understood.
So you agree. But number two, there's only so many airline pilots jobs. So when you say we want 40%, by definition, then you have to discriminate against a certain group to get another group to advance, right?
Understood.
Because there's not unlimited amounts of spots for airline pilots or air traffic control or surgeons or whatever position. So when you say that we want to have a quota, that then you have to say we're not going to prioritize a certain group. Let me tell you what I believe, and maybe you might actually agree with it, because I think you do. What we believe as conservatives is that skin color really doesn't matter that much. We care about character and merit. We want a country built on what you bring to the table, not how you look.
Exactly. And America started out with that based on merit, and theoretically, it was supposed to work. In practice, it did not, which is why you have these different programs of affirmative action, DEI, and Civil Rights Act, because they were not working.
Embedded,
you cannot ignore that these policies were created to counteract racism. A counteract to racism is not racism in itself.
Well, first, I reject the premise, and I will say this. If you do something racist on top of something racist, that doesn't make the second racist action good. Because if you discriminate against white people to say that we're fighting racism, then that's not a good idea. But instead, I think you can agree that when we build a society like college admissions or job applications, we should say no quotas and just merit. You agree?
I agree.
Then you're against DEI, because DEI says quotas.
Yeah, let me finish. I agree to a certain extent. So when you mentioned about discriminating against whites, of course, I don't agree with that.
That is DEI, just so we're clear.
Right, and I'm going to say it again.
Cool, right.
DEI was created to offset racism. We left it up to majority of white America to include people of color with qualifying for these people and would not. So my argument is that you're saying it's reverse racism. My argument is that it needed to be there to counteract racism. Sounds like we need to find a different solution.
I have a great solution. Stop talking about race all the time. Race doesn't mean anything. Because I look at you not as a black guy, but as a human being made in the image of God, and I want to know what you bring to the table. Are you good at the job? Or are you better than your competitor? Because let me just pause for a second. I just want you to hear out what we believe. Is that when you talk about race all the time, you start to resegregate society based on tribes, and you lose this idea of pluribus unum, all made in the image of God, out of many one. And yes, we have made many mistakes in our past, but we were getting closer as a country in my childhood as being not obsessed with race. We've become more race obsessed over the last 10 years, especially the last 5 years, which is why we're seeing the anti-DEI movement, which actually ends up hurting people of color more than previously. And I guess the biggest question, though, is that why should race matter at all? Shouldn't we just de-emphasize it?
What I wanted to first respond to is the notion of stop talking about race. I don't agree with that notion for the simple fact that talking about things bring awareness. Awareness leads to actions. Actions produce change results. I just want to use your logic and flip it on you. Imagine you had cancer and your doctor was like, let's just stop talking about it. It wouldn't, in the same context that racism wouldn't go away,
got it.
Cancer wouldn't go away.
Let's accept that premise.
Not.
Do you think racism is a top 100 problem in America?
I think it is, I haven't considered the other 99 to give a thorough.
Crime, fathers not being around, obesity, suicide, mental health issues,
For sure.
anxiety, cost of college, an open border, Russian-Ukrainian war, nuclear proliferation, artificial intelligence, the rise of China. All that's probably more important than racism. So
I'm not saying it is or isn't.
But however,
You're kind of changing the subject.
no, I'm not. But to use your premise, if I have cancer, that's the most important thing happening to me.
Correct.
Racism is not a cancer on America. Racism is sin, and we'll never get rid of sin because we are broken, fallen creatures from our Creator, and we rebel.
Right, so that you do not solve issues by not discussing them. If you and your wife have, I'm not sure if you're married, if you and your wife have a disagreement with communication, and you tell her, like, hey, let's just stop talking about our problems. The problems do not disappear.
I actually don't think it's an issue nearly as much as you do. I think we've made it a bigger issue.
I'm not making it a bigger issue. I'm just discussing. This is just my talking.
I'm saying generally, but let's just say, and then I do want to get your definition though. What is racism?
Racism is a form of feeling of superiority. It is expressed through discrimination and through the legal system.
Fair enough. So we agree that's wrong and it's terrible. So we should get rid of practices that actively discriminate against anybody based on race. Can you be racist against white people?
Can I? Or
Yes.
black people?
No, can a black person like yourself be racist against a white person?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. We agree, and you should be applauded for that because some people on the left think you can't be racist against white people.
So
Some, not all.
just to speak for black people,
That's quite a statement, but sure.
well, let me speak for the majority who are of my opinion. So when blacks who, let's say, have disdain for whites, it is not based in racism, it is based in cause and effect. It is normal for anybody to hate a suppressor. It is normal for anybody to hate their rapist. It is normal for anybody to hate their murderers. America went to war with the British Empire for being suppressed and oppressed. So my concluding point is that a lot of the hate that can be perceived from blacks as white is hating oppression, not white people. Because if you substitute our oppression for a Mexican, if a Mexican oppresses us, we therefore hate him as well. If a black man oppresses us, we therefore hate oppression.
I think that's a fair point. Let me ask one final question, if that's okay. If you had to decide which is a bigger problem facing Black America, racism or a lack of fathers raising black kids, which is a bigger problem?
I would say what impact? Repeat the question.
If you had to decide in a binary choice, which is a bigger problem facing Black America, racism or a lack of fathers raising black youth?
I think it's a combination of both, but for sure we'll say black because blackness affects blacks more than you ever affected me in my life.
I'm sorry, so you said you'd say racism or the black fathers?
Fathers.
I agree. So now we have agreement. Do you agree that the last 5 years we've talked more about racism and way less about dads staying around with the women they impregnate? Would you agree that's probably a problem?
I agree that's a problem amongst all races. When you say we, who is we?
Well, as a society, but it's especially a problem in Black America. If you had to guess, I know this is like Trivial Pursuit, but approximate, what percentage of black youth have a stable father around?
I wouldn't know those numbers.
It's about 30%. So that means that 2 out of 3 black kids do not have a dad around.
I would have to fact check that for myself.
That's fine. You can look it up. You guys can look it up on Grok or ChatGPT or Perplexity or the AI of your choice, right? And so here's our perspective as conservatives, because this is a colorblind truth. See, as conservatives, we apply things that are true to all human beings regardless of their skin color. That if you don't have a dad around, you're more likely to commit crimes, go to jail, more likely to basically be on the outer fringe of the society. When 2 out of 3 black youth don't have dads around, that's a big, big problem. And it creates a cycle of violence and poverty. That's not racism, that's culture. And the cultural problems happening in Black America, the white people are not doing that to black
Do we
people.
not look at the sources of poverty? When I spoke about redlining, that was literally whites forcing blacks into ghettos because they would not give us houses.
No one's going to defend that.
We cannot ignore that.
No one's going to defend that. But
we cannot ignore who created the ghettos.
Let me ask a simple
question. It's disingenuous.
Well, hold on. Just because you're poor doesn't mean you have to leave the woman you impregnate.
Correct.
That does not transcend every racial group. I want an answer, though, because I'm curious. Why is it that so many black men leave the women that they impregnate, more so than any other group? Why is that? Is that the white person's fault?
No.
So maybe the biggest problem facing Black America is self-actualized,
right? I'm not arguing,
external.
I'm not arguing what's the biggest and smallest problem. I was just asking you
but
white privilege.
No, but
it exists.
For sure. But what I'm arguing is that as a society, we had entire years of corporate apologizing, television advertisements talking about racism in America, and zero attention saying, hey, dudes of all colors, don't impregnate women and abandon them because you're cowards. Why hasn't anybody ever said that? Because that actually would fix the country.
What makes you think that hasn't been said amongst the black community?
Can you
I'm a black father. It's been...
well, thank you, amazing. Can you point to a single black artist, rapper, or athlete that has said that in the last decade?
About specifically saying black fathers should be involved in their children's life?
No, saying don't abandon the women you impregnate.
Oh, they haven't said it in those words, but they do promote black family ties, which is essentially the same thing.
I'm not trying to nitpick, but do you think most rappers promote staying with their family or not staying with the women that they impregnate?
The rappers that I listen to, the J. Cole's, the Kendrick Lamar's, they preach family values.
Okay, I'm not an expert in American rap, but if American rap is promoting family values, then I guess I'll...
Not in its full totality. You have different genres of rap. You have gangster rap, conscious rap, hip hop, so forth and so on. But for the artists that I listen to, they absolutely promote those type of values that you promote.
I'm glad to hear that.
I actually agree with many of your conservative takes.
Thank you.
I disagree with some as well. That's just because I think for myself.
We agree on a lot. We disagree on some. I can say this, that we both want a country based on merit, and I think we should keep that as our ultimate goal and purpose. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you. Yes.
I'll tell you what, we're in